So good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the 2018 Preschool Mindfulness Summit. I'm really happy to introduce our next guest, Grace Helms Kotre. She's the founder and director of Power to Be, and she's somebody that's very passionate about teaching mindfulness to preschoolers in particular. So I'm really excited to have her here today and for her to share her history and her strategies and toolbox with us. So welcome.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure to be here. Thanks.
Great, thank you. So maybe first of all, you can just tell our viewers how you got into this field and what drew you to, start writing about and teaching mindfulness.
Certainly. I share this story a lot. It's very personal, but I feel like it's important that we share our stories. And I find that it's common to other people who are involved in mindfulness and meditation. So the short story is that I have a long history of depression myself, starting from teenage years on through to early adulthood, and had a traumatic loss experience in my mid-20s that led me to seek something different to support myself. And a friend recommended mindfulness meditation, which I had not tried before. So I started trying it. I committed to a daily practice, and within a few months even, there was definitely a shift in the way I perceived things and the way that I could go about my daily life and handle the stress that I was dealing with. And within a few more months, I really felt almost a complete transformation in the way that in my mental health, I guess I would say the cloud sort of lifted for me, that cloud of depression. So because I felt so transformed by mindfulness and meditation myself, I first of all committed very seriously to a daily practice and have now been practicing on a daily basis for about 9 years, almost 9 years. And part of that was I didn't want to let go of the healing power that I had in my own life. So it was really important to me to commit to that. And then a few years ago, I decided to leave my job doing social justice work and nonprofit work, and just felt like I needed to do something different, and was staying home at that time with my young children, who were 1 and 3 at the time. And I found through another couple of synchronicities, I found that there was training for people to teach mindfulness to children. And of course, it's right in line with what I already loved and was doing for myself, and was doing naturally with my own children, who were little ones. And so I got trained, and I became a teacher, and I started my own business, and now I'm devoting all of my time outside of my family to mindfulness and training others. Yeah.
That's great. That's wonderful. I love how personal it is, and how you've taken that. And of course, we naturally do things with our own children.
Yeah.
Then that you went back and studied even more. And I think you did mindful schools as well.
I did. Mm-hmm.
As well. So a few people have said that.
Yes, mindful schools. Yes.
So, So I know you have a program now called Mindful Me. Is that what it's called? Yeah, Mindful Me: Discovering My Inner Superpowers. That's particularly for toddlers and caregivers, and they attend this together. So, and it's an 8-week program, isn't it? Mm-hmm. So I'm sure I'm very excited to hear all about this program, and I know our viewers will be too. So maybe you could take us through what happens and what the development's like in those 8 weeks.
Certainly, yeah. So that was really the first class that I created now a few years ago. And I was drawn to working with preschoolers. At that time, my children were in preschool, and I was in their classrooms a lot. And I was reading research that showed that even children as young as 3 can be practicing mindfulness. I would say even earlier with my own children, but the research has been on kids 3 to 5 even, who are benefiting from mindfulness. So I was drawn to that population, and I wanted to start this class. So I began the class through a community rec and ed program, and I invited parents to come with the children. And that for me is very important because children so young need to be learning something in a supportive system that that nurtures their learning beyond just that 45 minutes a week classroom experience. So the parents, one parent or caregiver, sometimes it's a grandparent, an aunt, whoever, comes with the child, and they learn together, and they do the 45-minute class together. And then the idea is to go home and continue practicing the new skills that they've learned, practicing their new superpower skills, and come back the next week. We always reflect on, oh, how did you use that skill in your life, and how did it feel? And then we move on to our next skill. So developmentally at that age, children are, I would say, already very naturally or innately attuned to the moment. They get sucked into what they're doing. They're very present with what they're doing. So rather than training them to be more mindful in terms of paying attention to the moment, which is something I do with older kids, something I do with adults, because we need to turn off distraction and come back to the moment. But for the youngest children, that's already their natural state, really. And so with them, what I try to focus on in the class is becoming aware that they're paying attention. So developing a bit of that metacognition, that meta-awareness, to know that right now I'm focusing on sound, to know that right now I'm focusing on my body, to notice that right now I'm focusing on this interaction with a friend and how I can use my mindful language. Or so we're really just pointing out what they're already naturally capable of, which is why I call it my inner superpowers. They all have them. Just pointing them out, right, and practicing them to strengthen that awareness that they already have. And the other key thing at this age is obviously is emotional regulation and starting to develop some emotional regulation. So we focus a lot in the class on the superpower of noticing my emotions, noticing my body sensations when I have an emotion, being aware of that, and then verbalizing it, mindfully communicating the emotion, and then being in control of my response. The emotion can feel like this, my body can feel like this, my thoughts can feel like this, but my response is my choice. So we focus a lot on that. So the class sessions are focusing on specific skills. Each class focuses on a specific skill. So we focus on mindful bodies and listening. We focus on mindful breathing, mindfulness of emotions, and really pinpoint that. We focus on heartfulness, which is this component of mindfulness that's bringing our attention to these positive qualities we attribute to the heart, like love and kindness, generosity, gratitude. We focus on the senses. I actually do 2 lessons dividing the senses up so that we focus on listening and seeing and touch and smelling and hearing. I said hearing and listening. And mindful taste. Yeah, we do a whole experiment with food, so that they can learn to bring more attention to their everyday experiences of sense. And that one, they get that real quickly and easily. So those are the primary areas that we cover in the classes. And yeah.
Oh, sounds great. And I love how developmentally appropriate all sounds. I know we talked a bit earlier about sometimes things get pushed down a bit. But before we get into that, can you give us some concrete examples of activities that you do that maybe parents watching or teachers watching can take back and do tomorrow?
Yes. Absolutely. So in each class session, we practice the mindfulness meditation component very briefly because it's not developmentally appropriate to ask them to sit in a meditation for a long period of time. So we'll do maybe, depending on the day, 10 to 30 seconds of sitting in a mindful body and listening to the bell. And that could be to any sound that is handy in your preschool classroom, but the bell is nice because it resonates for a period of time. So we'll always do a mindful listening activity in every class to cultivate that awareness of sound with that particular sense. We practice being still as statues in our mindful bodies. So we sit in a relaxed position, but with our backs, our spines straight, tall like a tree, and to help us to stay alert, to pay attention, learn new things. And we will play the still as a statue game. And I do that multiple times through the course because they enjoy it and because it develops attention, body awareness, and other things. So we practice the still as a statue game where we'll just sit for as long as they can. And sometimes, depending on the class and the environment and the energy of the group, they can sit for 2 whole minutes like that, still as a statue. And they enjoy it because it's a competition, it's a game. So that's an easy one to do anytime you have a minute. Oh, let's be still as statues. And I really like this to get into a mindful body. This comes from Susan Kaiser Greenland's book, and I saw her do a talk about this as well. But we zip up in our mindful bodies, so I'll just scoot back. So we pretend like we have a zipper at our belly buttons, and we get kind of slouched, and then we zip all the way up. So our zippers go from our belly button up to our chest, and that helps us to be nice and tall. And every time I find that we're losing our attention or we're starting to get a little bit antsy, sometimes we'll get the wiggles out, we'll wiggle and jiggle, and then we'll say on the count of 3, we're going to zip. 1, 2, 3, and then we all do our zip. Mindful bodies, hands in your lap, still as a statue. And it's an easy thing to do, and it gets the children back oriented to what are we doing right now. So I do that throughout. We do that as a lesson in the beginning, and then we just use it throughout. I do a lot of stories and crafts. And there are many now. We're very fortunate. There are many good children's books that are available about mindfulness. So certainly you can find them at the library often, depending on where you live. But we have some from the library, like My 5 Senses by Aliki, which is actually a wonderful book that mentions the awareness that we can bring to senses. So its focus is mindfulness of senses. I also use the book about mindful breathing called Charlotte and the Quiet Place, which is a beautiful book as well, and talks about her finding a quiet place inside with her mindful breathing that can help her to find her inner calm. So we use stories a lot. I also do so a couple of things that I use props for or crafts for. One is the breathing ball. And I don't know how many folks are familiar with this or have already talked about it, the program, but I use, it's called a Hoberman sphere, and you can order it anywhere online, but you could get it different places. But it opens and closes, so the ball expands and contracts, and I breathe with that. We pass it around the room. The young children love that tactile, oh, I can see the ball opens, just like my chest and breath, and then closes when I breathe out. And I pass it around so every child can practice how it feels to open and close the ball with their breath. And we all breathe with each other as we open and close the ball. And that you can again do, depending on your classroom size, in 2 minutes. Pass it around and have everyone do a breath. And that gives them a full 2 minutes of mindful breathing. But they're paying attention to the ball, so it doesn't feel like they're bored or getting just frustrated, distracted. And then I do a lot of quick crafts that are hopefully simple enough that they could be replicated easily. But we'll do things like we draw ourselves with mindful superpowers, whatever that looks like, or we will make mind jars, which I'm sure people are aware of. They're everywhere online now with glitter spinning. So we do simple crafts as well.
Okay, yeah, those are great. I love how everything is so short and simple.
Yeah.
Because I think sometimes we try to make things complicated and think, oh, we have to do this great big mindfulness thing, and when actually it's all little moments, isn't it? And things that can just actually fit in the day if you put a little bit of thought into how to turn them into mindful moments.
Exactly. Yeah, and I like that you said it that way. Those little moments. There was a quote from my teachers at Mindful Schools that has stuck with me, which is the quote about really the point is short moments of awareness repeated many times rather than long periods of sitting or being still. So if you do 1 minute of look around the room with me, who notices something they've never noticed before with their mindful eyes? You know, it could be 30 seconds, it could be a minute, and there's another moment of mindful awareness. So it's so simple that way. Yeah.
Well, your course sounds amazing. I'd
Oh,
love to
thank you.
learn even more about it. So can you give some of the teachers or parents listening some tips on, sometimes we read things that are for older kids or for adults, different strategies and things, and how would you adapt those to make sure that they're appropriate for the younger children?
Yes. So again, there's this theme for me when I adapt things, which is to make things simple and fun, and to emphasize this bringing awareness to things we already do, things we already know, making it relevant. The curriculum that I created for this class, for the Mindful Me class, it's adapted from the Mindful Schools K through 5 curriculum. So it uses a lot of their curriculum. And I adapted it to make it, one, just more interactive, to make it fun and engaging for preschoolers. They can't just have, I find that I lose them if I talk for more than about 2.5 minutes. So I give short instruction and we are interactive, and then we short instruct, and any teacher or parent of a child that age would know that anyway, naturally. So everything we do is interactive. I'll do a little instruction and then right away into a game, and a little instruction and right away into a game. There are so many ways to make things games if you become creative and playful yourself. And if you're around kids this age, I'm sure it's, somewhat, it becomes habitual to do that anyway. So everything that that is laid out in a shorter lesson for an adult, I would just expand each little component of that and make it playful. And you can do things like we talk about heartfulness and sending kind wishes, sharing kind wishes, rather than sitting in a meditation posture, practicing that mentally, which you can do with older kids and adults. We get little pebbles and just little round gems. They could be anything, but we use little round gems and we hand them to one another. And as we hand them to each other, we say, may you be happy. May you be peaceful. May you be safe and at ease. And they repeat after each thing. And then they get in their hands, they're receiving these kind wishes, literally. And the parents do that with the child in my class. And often parents get a little teary with it. And children appreciate that it's significant to offer someone kind wishes in that way. But if it weren't tactile for them, I don't think it would engage them the way it does. So so the biggest tip I have for that is just to make everything a game, playful and interactive, and use props. I have such big bags of props for my classes with little ones. Yeah.
To see and touch something, don't they?
Yes, to make it real for them, concrete. And the lesson, their minds can't understand the abstractness of sending kind thoughts in their minds. Yeah, right. Right.
Yeah. So what kind of feedback have you got from the carers or the parents that have joined the program?
So mostly what I hear from parents of kids this age, and it's different for all ages, so it's interesting. Mostly what I hear is that this has helped my child understand that they have a choice about how they respond to their emotions. And again, that's appropriate for this age. That's the primary skill they're really learning. And so mindfulness will aid in that. And so I've had parents tell me things like, there was something going on that was frustrating at home, and my child told me I needed to take my mindful breaths. And that happens all the time, where they start telling their parents how to act, which is great because they're internalizing it. They will. I've heard things like, I can feel in my belly that my anger is coming up. Can you do mindful breaths with me? So even that body awareness, and it's still emotion related. So body, emotion, thought, all of that is going on, and they're starting to be able to distinguish one and the other, and then be in control of how they respond. In an 8-week course, they are not transformed completely into having the ability to be completely emotionally regulated all the time. And of course, that wouldn't be appropriate anyway. They're still developing that skill for many, many years. Many adults I know, we're all still developing that skill. But they do get it on that level, and parents see that evolution happening. And then if parents continue to support and teachers continue to support beyond the formal lessons, acknowledging, labeling, noticing emotions in the body. How do you want to respond? Take a mindful breath. Then we can really make it a habit for a child that becomes easy to access.
Right. What a gift that is, right?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're almost coming to the end. So just tell us a little bit more about what you're up to with Power to Be, and what projects and new things we can expect to see on your website or in your work.
Yeah. Thanks for asking. I would say it's continuing to become something and taking me in different directions. And I'm finding that I am gravitating more and more to the little ones. And so I just started partnering with our community rec and ed program to offer classes in preschools. So I'm going into the schools and doing an 8-week class or a workshop for parents and children together. The main thing that I need to do there is to find ways to make it easy for children and parents to access this stuff. And I'm sure teachers and parents who watch this can understand that sense of one more thing in our lives, one more thing in our day. It's just too much.
Yeah.
Right. It's just, and a lot of parents will say, I need this, but we don't have time for it. And how ironic and so true that we don't have or make time often for things that will help us in so many ways handle the busyness of our lives. So to try to make it easy and accessible for parents and teachers and children is what I'm trying to do the most right now. And so I think if teachers can incorporate it in the classroom, if parents can incorporate it just in their own home in the times that they already have with their children, that's where it's most possible, most powerful. Yeah.
And just want to remind all the viewers, Grace has provided a really great sheet that you can download that has lots of activities you can do at home that are simple, quick things as well. So don't forget to get that, and we'll be putting your website and other details on the Mindfulness Summit, so you can get in touch and learn more about Power to Be. I just want to say thank you very much, Grace, for sharing all these amazing ideas. And I'm sure everyone's going to race home or to school to try them out. And it was really informative. We all learned a lot. So thank you for joining us.
Oh, I'm so glad to be here. And best to everybody who's doing this work. I really am, cheerleader for it too as well. Yeah. So thank you everyone for doing this and bring it to kids.
Thank you so much.